Welcome to Daily Papers, the podcast where we break down the latest fascinating research into bite-sized pieces.
Today, we're talking about something many of us grapple with, the environmental guilt of flying. We love to travel, but we know aviation has a huge carbon footprint.
Exactly. Aviation is what's known as a hard-to-abate sector. That's a technical way of saying it's really difficult to reduce its emissions. We don't have mass-market electric passenger jets yet, and sustainable aviation fuels are still a long way from being the norm.
So, if we can't fix the planes overnight, what can we do? Well, today's paper looks at changing the behavior of the people buying the tickets. It's all about using psychology and a little bit of AI to encourage us to make greener choices.
The key idea here is something called nudging. A nudge isn't a rule or a fine, it's a subtle change to the environment that gently pushes you towards a certain decision. Think about a school cafeteria putting fruit at eye level and junk food on a harder-to-reach shelf. They're not banning the junk food, they're just nudging you towards the apple.
In the world of air travel, the nudge they're exploring is for carbon offsetting. This is when you're booking a flight and you see that little checkbox to pay a bit extra. That extra money goes towards projects that reduce CO2 emissions, like planting trees or funding renewable energy, to balance out the emissions from your flight.
But a lot of people just skip right past that option. So how do you nudge them to click it? This is where the paper gets really clever. They use a classic marketing trick called the decoy effect.
The decoy effect is brilliant. The paper gives the classic example of Starbucks coffee sizes. Imagine you have a small coffee for $3 and a large for $7. The large seems expensive. But what if they add a medium size for $6.50? Suddenly, the large coffee for just 50 cents more seems like a fantastic deal. The medium is the decoy. It's not really there to be sold, it's there to make the large look more appealing.
So the researchers thought, could we do this with plane tickets? When you're booking, you have two choices, the standard ticket with no offset and the target option, which is a slightly more expensive carbon-neutral ticket. What if we introduce a third option, a decoy?
For example, a ticket that only partially offsets your emissions, but is priced very close to the fully carbon-neutral ticket. Just like the medium coffee, this decoy option is designed to make the fully carbon-neutral ticket look like the obvious best value choice.
But here's the million-dollar question. What makes the perfect decoy? The best decoy for me might be different from the best one for you. It could depend on our age, our income, where we live, and how much we trust these offsetting programs in the first place.
Trying to figure this out with traditional methods would be a nightmare. You'd need massive, expensive surveys for every different group of people. This is where the researchers brought in the big guns, a large language model, or LLM. You probably know this technology as the brains behind things like ChatGPT.
Instead of asking thousands of people, they first asked the AI. They basically created digital profiles of different travelers. For instance, they'd tell the LLM, you are a young woman from Germany. You're concerned about the environment, but you don't fully trust offset programs. Here are 3 ticket options. Which one do you choose?
The AI acted as a sort of digital twin for different types of travelers, allowing the researchers to test hundreds of different decoy options incredibly quickly and cheaply. Based on the AI's responses, they could predict which specific decoy, what price, and what level of offsetting would be most effective for each group.
Of course, what an AI predicts and what real people do can be 2 different things. So the next step was to test it in the real world. They ran a huge online study with nearly 3,500 actual air travelers from 5 different countries: China, Germany, India, Singapore, and the United States.
These participants were put into a flight booking simulation. Some people saw the standard 2 options, regular ticket or carbon neutral. Others saw a third decoy option, and crucially, some people were shown the specific personalized decoy that the LLM had designed just for their demographic profile.
So did it work?
It absolutely did. The LLM-informed personalized decoys increased the rate of people choosing to fully offset their flights by 3 to 7%.
Now, 3 to 7% might not sound like a huge number, but when you scale it up across the entire aviation industry, it's massive. The researchers calculate that this could lead to an additional 2.3 million tons of CO2 being mitigated every year just from the countries in the study.
What's maybe even more impressive is who it worked on. The personalized nudges were most effective on the people who started out as skeptical, the ones who said they had low trust in carbon offset programs.
That's a huge finding. It's not just getting the already green people to be even greener, it's actually persuading the doubters to change their behavior and participate.
The paper is also very transparent about its limitations. The LLM they used was trained on data that has an inherent Western bias. As a result, the personalized nudges worked much better in Germany, Singapore, and the US than they did in China and India.
Which highlights a really important point for the future of this technology. If we're going to use AI to design global policies, we need AI models that understand and reflect the world's cultural diversity. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So, what's the big takeaway here? This study shows us a powerful new way to tackle climate change. By combining AI with a bit of behavioral psychology, we can create personalized, subtle nudges that encourage people to make more sustainable choices, even in a really tough sector like aviation.
It's a fascinating look at how AI can be used not just as a tool for information, but as a tool for understanding and gently influencing human decision-making for the better.
That's all we have time for today on Daily Papers. Join us next time as we dive into another fascinating piece of research.